Who here is old enough to remember the comedy Who's on Second or Who's on First? Yeah. Who's on first? Abbott and Costello. Very good, Alice. That's right. It's a wonderful bit. If you're not familiar with that, look it up on YouTube. Just type in Who's on First and it'll come up. I'm playing on that phrase a little bit by saying Who's on Second, because we never remember the second person. We never remember who came in second. We might remember who won the World Series back in the fall. I personally don't, because I didn't watch it. But next year, this time, can you tell me who came in second in the World Series last year? It's hard to remember those things unless you're a real baseball fanatic. Do you know the name of the female pilot that attempted to be the first to fly across the Pacific Ocean?
Jane Goodall.
What'd you say?
Jane Goodall.
No, Jane Goodall was in the wilderness with the apes. I heard it's Amelia Earhart. Disappeared in the Pacific many years ago. There's been recent evidence they think they know what happened to her, but that's been a long time. That's really kind of hard to say, but that's what they're saying. So yes, it was Amelia Earhart. Now, can you name the onboard navigator? Yeah. Didn't even know there was another person on that plane, did you? You picture her in a plane all by herself trying to make it across the Atlantic Ocean. She crashed it somewhere. I wasn't alive then, of course, but I'm guessing there were a bunch of women driver jokes about that time. But there was a man on there. His name is Frederick Joseph Noonan. Nobody knows that name. We don't remember the second in a lot of things. Unfortunately, that includes Scripture. And we're going to look at some passages today. One of them is extremely, in fact, both of them are very familiar. The first one is extremely familiar. Do you know where Jesus' first miracle was performed? Say that out loud so people can hear. Cana. Cana. Do you know what it was? Right. It was at a wedding feast, water to wine, in a little town called Cana. Anybody know where Cana is? No? Cana, Virginia. Yeah. Yeah. He wasn't over here. Nope. He stayed in the Middle East. His physical body stayed in the Middle East, I should say. If you said turning water into wine was the first miracle, congratulations, you are as wrong as the preacher was. It was the first miracle in Cana. And I'll prove that to you today. We're going to read that. Let me back up so you're not looking at that. I want to read the passage to you. This is in John chapter 2, and I will be reading from the King James Version today. It says, and the third day there was a marriage in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. And both Jesus was called and his disciples to the marriage. And when they wanted wine, the mother of Jesus saith unto him, they have no wine. Jesus saith unto her, Woman, what have I to do with thee? Mine hour is not yet come. His mother saith unto the servants, Whatsoever he saith unto you, do it. And there were set there 6 water pots of stone, after the manner of the purifying of the Jews, containing 2 or 3 firkins apiece. Jesus saith unto them, Fill the water pots with water. And they filled them up to the brim. And he saith unto them, Draw out now, and bear unto the governor of the feast. And they bare it. When the ruler of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine, he knew not whence it was, but the servants which drew the water knew. The governor of the feast called the bridegroom, and he said unto him, Every man at the beginning doth set forth good wine, and when men have well drunk, then that which is worse. But thou hast kept the good wine until now. This beginning of miracles did Jesus in Cana of Galilee, and manifested forth his glory, and his disciples believed on him. Now, where is that Cana? Might be a little bit hard to see. I was able to find my pointer, but this is the Sea of Galilee right here. This is the Galilee territory, which is north of Samaria, which is north of Judea, where Jerusalem is, and Bethlehem. This is Cana right here. Right up here, right on the Sea of Galilee, is a little town called Capernaum, and that will come in play in a little bit. We need to know the distance of those things before we talk about the second scripture we'll be reading today. This scale comes from this scale. I did not adjust anything. The distance between Cana and Capernaum is kind of important. Make it a little bit bigger for you. You can see 10, 20 miles, maybe 30 if you adjust the scale just a little bit, but less than 30 miles, which means that's more than a day's walk for them. For us, it's hop in the car and we're there in 30, 40 minutes. For them, it's a day and a half trip because everybody walked everywhere. Now let's go back to what we read. The details of this event are very important. I'm going to bring out something that's a little bit different than you've ever probably heard. I've never heard these things explained this way, because what people either focus on is one of two things. They focus on the miracle itself, Jesus changing that water into wine. That leads into a whole lot of controversy. Was it alcoholic wine? Did they serve alcoholic wine and then this was just sweet tasting grape juice to make it taste good? I'm not going into any of that today, but the detail of Mary being at this wedding indicates that north of Samaria, that there are Jews at this wedding. She wouldn't have went to what we would call a secular marriage ceremony. This was a Jewish wedding. That means there was a significant number of people there. The running out of the wine means there were many people in attendance. There was enough that they had drank up all the wine that was originally bought for this wedding ceremony. And that's where the second thing comes in that gets argued about. Did Jesus talk back to his mother? Was he rude to his mother in the way he responded? I've preached on that myself here. I've preached on both of those controversial issues. That's not the subject today. I want you to see that there's a good number of Jews in this little town north of Samaria. The text even says that these water pots are for Jewish ceremonial washing. You see, they had rituals that they would wash their hands and wash themselves before certain religious acts. Yes, the temple had that, but anywhere there was a synagogue, they would do that also. So these are Jewish ceremonial washing vessels. These things held between 20 and 30 gallons. 20 or 30 gallons. That's one. Filling up one of those is a lot of wine. Now, how many people were there? Probably a good many. And they would have been Jewish people. It would have been highly unusual for a non-Jewish person to be invited to a Jewish wedding, simply because that's the way Jewish people worship. There is a Jewish worship center in Roanoke. It's called Beth Israel Temple. Big, enormous building. And the only time that I've ever known that the public is welcome there is when they will sell lunches as a fundraiser to the general public. I've been in that building because of that. I went in and got that Reuben sandwich. I don't really care for the stuff that's on a Reuben. I more or less wanted to see inside and meet the people. I ate the sandwich anyway, but it's the way they worship. They celebrate their weddings privately. This was a Jewish event with lots of people. That's important to know. Then the text mentions the first miracle in verse 11. Sounds like it's the first miracle. It's been preached across America as the first miracle Jesus performed on earth. But the text literally says in Cana. The details of the Greek are important. Yes, it's a bit difficult for the average person to understand the Greek. However, there are tools widely available. Any one of you who have a cell phone or a tablet or a computer at home can get software for free that will give you both the Greek words and their definitions, all for free. All you have to do is learn to use the software, and it's not that hard. The Greek details are important. The word here for, in most modern translations, they say master of ceremonies or governor here in the early King James Version, means a person with rank with 3 couches. Now that's kind of weird, isn't it? A person of rank with 3 couches. If you walked into somebody's house and saw that they had 3 couches in their living room, you might think, well, they got a little money, don't they? 1, you got to have a room big enough to put 3 couches. 2, furniture's expensive. To get 3 of them is expensive. So I got to thinking about this. What could possibly be John's motive for using this particular word that means ranking person with 3 couches? Is it possible that this person was important enough that when he came to this large wedding ceremony, this festivity, you got to remember, it's not a 30-minute to 1 hour service like we do in America. A wedding celebration is days long in Middle East New Testament times. Is it possible this guy was coming to this wedding ceremony in one of the lifted couches? You remember seeing pictures in old movies of kings and important people being lifted up by at least 4 men with poles carrying a couch, something they could recline on. Picture him coming to that, and then when he gets to this facility, he is relaxing on this couch while telling everyone else what to do. And then he would leave on that couch that he arrived in. Now, that's conjecture to me. That's conjecture. I'll admit that's conjecture. But it fits the bill of what could possibly have happened and why John chose a word saying 3 couches. It fits the bill. The next word that's important, the Greek, is the word glory. We think of something bright, something wonderful, something magnificent, something glorious. The word means to think or to suppose. Think or suppose. What that's saying there is people are now thinking about this Jesus person in Cana. These people are wondering about this person. They're supposing, who is this person How did he do that? Where did all this wine come from that we drank up all the first wine and now there's all this wine and it's better than the first wine? How do we know? Because the man with 3 couches told us. It's better to think or suppose. So the key words I want you to remember in John 2, 1 through 11 is in Cana. Remember, this is the first miracle in Cana. In Cana. That's important. We're going to read John chapter 4, verses 46 through 53. But the important word here is came again to Cana. Now this is, 3 chapters away, essentially almost, or 2 chapters. But chapter 4 is long. It's got more than 53 verses in it. Let me read this to you. So Jesus came again into Cana of Galilee, where he made the water wine. And there was a certain nobleman whose son was sick at Capernaum. When he heard that Jesus was come out of Judea into Galilee, he went unto him and besought him that he would come down and heal his son, for he was at the point of death. Then said Jesus unto him, Except ye see signs and wonders, ye will not believe. The nobleman said unto him, Sir, come down, ere my child die. Jesus saith unto him, Go thy way, thy son liveth. And the man believed the word that Jesus had spoken to him, and went his way. As he was now going down, his servants met him, and told him, saying, Thy son liveth. Then he inquired of them the hour which he began to amend. And he said unto them, Yesterday at the 7th hour the fever left him. So the father knew that it was the same hour in which Jesus saith unto him, Thy son liveth, and himself believeth, and his whole house. Wow. Another miracle, huh? The details in the Greek are important again in this section. Very, very important. Nobleman or royal official means in the Greek equals court official. Court official. People try to say that this is a Roman officer because Rome ruled the land. However, when you dig into the Greek, you find out there's some things that are just a little bit different about this word that gets interpreted literally as royal official or nobleman. Let me back up. Don't give you that yet. The nobleman can actually mean something different than royal official. Those words, etymologically, now let me back up just a little bit. You remember I told you about the word glory and how it means to think or suppose? Etymologically, there means the word primarily means thought or opinion, especially favorable human opinion. What's that big word I used, etymologically mean? It means the history of the word. Where did that word derive from? What's the thought behind that word that became the word we speak today? That's what etymology is, studying the background, the history, where the word come from. And this word nobleman or royal official etymologically comes from the thought important person who walks. Important person who walks. So when you go back and read verse 46, John is reminding the people where Jesus is. He's in Galilee. Where in Galilee? In Cana, where he made the water into wine. He brings that up again, reminding the people that read this that Jesus is in the same place where that first miracle in Cana happened. And then he says, there was a certain nobleman. If you look back in the scriptures, who's a noble person in Cana? In the story, in John. Is this potentially the same man that was at the wedding? And it says that he walked. It said he came unto Jesus. He would have walked. Why would he have not ridden his couch to meet Jesus the second time? You see, the first time he met Jesus, he was in a position of importance, a position of leadership. He had a role to play. His intention was not to meet Jesus. He possibly didn't know who Jesus was before that night. But now he's witnessed this man do a miracle. He knows that the man can do miracles. He knows that Jesus has come back from Judea. So instead of coming in his high and mighty couch, being a royal official, he comes in walking, humbling himself to everyone else's equal. Asking Jesus, the man he knows can do a miracle, to do another miracle. If it's the same man. Again, it is conjecture. But the text strongly hints at it when you look at the details of the Greek behind our English words that we have in our Bibles. The English word for besought or begged literally means to ask for a favor. Who do you ask a favor from? Someone you know. Your friend from church, your neighbor that you converse with. Someone you trust, someone who has the ability to meet that favor. Do you walk up to the preacher of the biggest church in Blacksburg and ask him a favor if you attend this church? Probably not, unless he's your next door neighbor or you know him some other way. I have a feeling this is the same man that walked in or back to Cana. Doesn't say the man himself was in Cana. It says his son was in Capernaum. Now, yes, the man was probably in Capernaum taking care of his son, but doesn't say he lived there. Just says his son was in Capernaum. We don't know how old the son is. If your adult son is sick, you want somebody to pray for that man, don't you? We don't know that it's a little boy. Could be a grown man. Just the man's son. He wanted his son to get better. And he did. In the King James, the words ye see, or in the NIV, you people see, the Greek indicates a very specific group of people. Verse 48, except ye see signs and wonders, you will not believe. Ye see, you people. Your English translations in the modern versions will say you people. What's that mean? He's lumping this man in with a group of people. What's that group of people? Probably the Jews. Probably the Jews. Compare 1 Corinthians 1:22. 1 Corinthians 1:22 is where Paul says that the Jew requires a sign while the Greek or the Gentile accepts wisdom. The Jew requires a sign, is what Paul says, and Jesus says, except ye see signs and wonders, ye will not believe. You group of people will not believe without seeing signs and miracles. This man is most likely a Jew. Why is that important? One, because most commentaries you read will say that he's a Roman soldier. I believe they're wrong. The text indicates they are wrong. Not my opinion. The text indicates that the scholars who write these commentaries got it wrong. They didn't do a depth study of the Greek. They took the English word and ran with it. The details of this event are important. John reminds the reader of this first miracle. And what was the key words in the first story? In Cana. He reminds them of that miracle, that first miracle in Cana. Jesus lumps this man into a specific group. Who is that group? According to other scriptures, that group has got to be a Jewish group. Unless you see signs or wonders, you won't believe. The healing is described as the second miracle of Jesus performed in Galilee. I did not read that verse intentionally. Let me read it to you now. This is again the second miracle that Jesus did when he was come out of Judea into Galilee. Why is that important? Because Jesus had performed other miracles while he was in Judea before he went back to Galilee. So it's not his second miracle, is it? If he performed miracles down in Judea, where Jerusalem is, and Bethlehem, and all those towns, if he performed miracles there and went back to Cana in Galilee, that means that this is the second miracle performed in Galilee, which means the first one of water into wine was the first one in that town. Read the other three Gospels. You will find many more miracles than these two miracles here. These are 2 of 7 miracles seen in the book of John. The book of John is different. He only includes 7 of Jesus' miracles. If you go to the other Gospels, you get a bunch of miracles written out in those Gospels. John very likely had read those Gospels. He did not need to repeat each and every one of them, since others were repeated 2 and 3 times. He picked out specific ones for specific meanings, for specific reasons. We need to be studying the scriptures that way. It is important to always know the context and the details of the stories in the scriptures. Otherwise, I could have come in here and told you that Jesus' first miracle was turning water into wine, and Jesus' second miracle was healing the man's son off in Capernaum 30 miles away. I could have told you that, and the text sounds like it if you read the 2 verses by themselves individually. But when you put them back into the context, you see that this isn't the second miracle that Jesus did. It's the second one in Galilee. And we happen to know it was in Cana because of the first part of the text. It's the knowledge of the Greek is another key to proper understanding. That's how we know that it's not likely this second man, this man in the second story, I should say, was not necessarily a Roman soldier. The text indicates he was Jewish. And we know that Jews did not serve in Roman army or offices. You're not allowed to serve as a Roman official if you are Jewish. And this man described by Jesus indicates that he was Jewish by saying, you won't believe unless you see signs and wonders. Think about the one we talked about a while back, doubting Thomas. He was a Jew. Jesus did not scold him because he doubted, because he knows that the Jewish people require a sign in order to believe. And then Paul emphasizes that in one of his books. Read the book, not the verse. We all have, most of people my age and older, we were told to select a life verse when we were young. A life verse. And we're to live by that verse. And while there is some good in that, I'm going to suggest that we choose the Bible as our life book. Know the whole book. Know each book within the book of the Bible. Read the whole thing together. That's the way the New Testament church did it. See, when they would get a new book, when they would get a new letter from Paul, the church would come together. They would read that entire thing and discuss it before they left. The whole book. I've never even been in a service where the whole book was read. We could do that with Jude pretty easily, but we don't even do that. The reason I'm giving this sermon today is because I want you in 2026 to read the scriptures for yourselves, and I want you to be looking for these kinds of things. I want things to stand out to you that don't normally stand out. When you read this passage about the water being changed into wine, we really focus on that water into wine. Then on a second note, we might talk about Jesus' mom being scolded. That's fluff. Learn the details in the story. Read the whole story. Read the whole chapter and put the whole chapter in the whole context of the whole book. That's why this sermon today, I want you folks here to begin to do that for yourselves. I cannot teach you the entire Bible 1 hour a week. Can't do it in 2 hours a week. To read just read the entire Bible is 20 minutes a day. 20 minutes a day, and you'll get through the entire Bible. That's all it takes. That doesn't include looking up, studying, and finding out the history of the words. That's just the reading. If you're not reading through the scriptures in a year, come to me and I'll give you a plan to help you to do that. Change your life. You'll read things that you've never read before, never heard before. You'll read things that you read last year and forgot you read last year, if you read it 2 years in a row. Sometimes I bring up scripture and people don't know it's in the Bible. I say, well, yeah, it is. You got to read it for yourselves to find these things out, because it can't be covered in a 1 hour sermon. And actually, it's only a 20 to 30 minute sermon each Sunday. I hope that's a challenge to you today.